Greetings, humans! For the most part, the kind of cheap Halloween costumes that you can get at, Walmart or the dollar store or whatever are not worth your time. But every now and then, there's something that, while it isn't necessarily great on its own, it can turn into something awesome. For example, this, which I just acquired from Walmart for $8, which is quite a good price given the quality of these horns here. They're made of a dense foam. They have a few little uneven edges here, but those can easily be trimmed and adjusted. Overall, this is a very nice pair of horns. The flowers stuck on them are fine, just your sort of generic fake flowers, which I probably wouldn't keep with the horns, but I might use for something else. The headband is garbage. It's one of these super cheap plastic headbands with a little bit of fabric tape wrapped very sloppily around the edges. The connection points of the horns to the headband are disgusting, and this is extremely uncomfortable to wear. I also don't care for the way that it sticks up so high. I find this up-thrust shape to be very unflattering, and it also looks very stuck on. It doesn't look like the horns are growing naturally out of my head. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull this apart and keep these horns and use them for a different headdress, and I think that they're going to look really awesome once they're off of this garbage headband.
I thought the horns might be attached shoddily enough that I could just pry them off, but no luck. So I'm going to go ahead and use my heat gun to melt the glue that's holding them on. That works much better, and with a little bit of heat and only one burned finger, they peel right off. The headband is garbage. The flowers I'll keep and probably turn into hairpins, and then here are the horns.
So here are my horns. This is actually one of my favorite shapes for tiefling or dragon horns. I've been looking online on Amazon, on Etsy and stuff to find horns this shape, and all the ones I've found have been, super expensive hand cast resin kind of stuff that's just really beyond my budget. So then to find these at Walmart for $8 and they're being made out of this actually really firm, good quality foam was an amazing find. Now, I don't like them up on top of the head like they were originally. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move them down to my temples and have them sort of curl around the sides of my head and stick up in the back. So I get almost like a little bit of a crown kind of shape. Now, in order to do that, if you look here, you can see the angle where they're supposed to attach is different from the angle where I want them to attach. So I'm actually going to have to cut down this foam a little bit to get them to lie against my head at the right angle.
I'm marking the correct angles for cutting using a chalk marker so that I can make sure that they lie at the exact same angle along my head. I cannot seem to find a box cutter or a crafting scalpel anywhere, so I'm going to use my Tonto to cut these down. It's probably not the cleverest idea I've ever had, but it works. Now I'm just going to sand down this foam real quickly to give a slightly smoother surface to attach to my head.
Having shaped my horns, it is now time to figure out their proper placement on my head. So I'm going to be attaching them to a headband, which I'm going to go ahead and fit in place where I want it. I want the horns to pretty much line up at my temples here. So I'm going to go ahead and place them where I want them, and then go ahead and mark where they will hit on the headband. And then to make sure that they line up evenly. Does that look even? Just about. Alrighty. So I'm marking it with the headband on my head, of course, because it stretches, and I want to make sure that I place them accurately for when it's stretched onto my head. All right, placement marked, ready to attach these.
So here's the headband, and you can see I've put a little registration mark here to help me keep track of the angle where I need to line these up. And I'll just go ahead and match the angle on the other side as closely as possible. That looks just about even, and if they're not 100% perfect, that's okay, because they're supposed to be organic anyway. So now I'm just going to go ahead and glue these in place.
That initial blob of hot glue under the horns lets me attach them enough to double check the placement and make sure that I like the way they sit on my head. Pretty good. I am overall satisfied with that, but I am not going to rely entirely on those little blobs of glue to hold my horns in place. So now it's time to reinforce these attachment points. All right, here they are, all felted around the edges to hold them in place. So let's pop them on and see how they do. All right, those are holding nicely. So the felt, in addition to just securing them more firmly to the headband, also helps to prevent them from sagging outward. So if you noticed a minute ago when I put them on without the felt, they kind of sagged out here a little. They still looked fine, but what this has done is pulled the horns in closer against my head, so it's pressing the entire width of the base right in against my skin. So I've got some nice angles for you to look at. Observe my lovely horns, and I'm gonna have to put together a fun costume to use these with. So what kind of costume do you think I should wear with these? Leave your suggestions in the comments. I look forward to seeing your ideas. Until next time, fare thee well.